Notaries are impartial. We have to be, as is mandated by law. So we're kind of hybrids between public officials and private consultants. Meaning that we have to provide a certain level of service, and we also have to oversee the general compliance with the law. There's about 1,600 of us. We serve about 2.5 million clients a year, and we sign about 1 million authentic deeds a year, all told. The idea is that we're, like I said, sort of a hybrid who has received a delegation of power from the state, which is why you'll need us for certain types of transactions, the chief among which, for today's purposes, the incorporation of limited liability companies, because a limited liability company is potentially a dangerous thing. There are some safeguards, some checks and balances, and we have to make sure that those are followed. So we will be on your side, but we'll also look at compliance, which hopefully shouldn't be an issue. Like I said, we do business law. We also do real estate law and family law. I'm not going to go into that now, just so you know that we have a broader focus as well. And if you have questions, you can always talk to a notary. And then let's get to the questions at hand. You want to set up a legal entity in Belgium. The general idea of what we'll do today is not to turn you guys into professional corporate lawyers in the next 25 minutes. That'd be a little ambitious. It's just to give you an overview, and especially to know what the pitfalls are and who you need to talk to in order to avoid them. And to give you a sort of an overview of what the possibilities are so that you'll know what to ask for. The main question you need to ask yourself before you set up a legal entity is, do I want to make a profit, a for-profit, or a non-profit entity? It's a pretty big distinction, and it's pretty clear, or it should be, which you want to go for. A non-profit entity, big or important point, is a non-profit entity has to be an actual non-profit entity. You can't use it to gain financial benefit for yourself. Anything you put into the non-profit entity, you should consider lost, or lost to the good cause, but therefore lost to your own personal estate. If you want to go for a profit structure, a for-profit structure, then you can choose between a branch or a subsidiary. A branch is not a separate legal entity. You maintain the current legal entity that you have, UK company or whatever it be, and you formalize your presence in Belgium. A subsidiary is a separate legal entity, and has its own estate, its own representation, and its own kind of rules. A few more words on nonprofits. You can create a normal nonprofit association or an international, regular is probably a better word, a regular nonprofit association or an international nonprofit association. An international nonprofit association requires the approval of the king, which means the government. When we talk about the king in Belgian law, that actually means the government. So basically, it's an extra level of compliance, and they need to have an international focus. Frankly, we don't see a lot of them. I do mention them here because by its nature, this is an international kind of presentation. But if your nonprofit goal has an international character, then you could go for an international nonprofit association, Association Internationale Sans But Lucratif. I've translated most of the terms to French and or Dutch as well, depending on whether or not that means anything to you, just so you would have the correct term to reference if you contact somebody in Belgium, because translation is always a bit tricky. About the nonprofit association, this can be created through a private deed. So you can just draw this up yourself and create the nonprofit association that way. You don't need to go to a notary for this, but it does need to be published in the Belgian official journal, the Moniteur Belge, and it also needs to be deposited at the court office of the Belgian Companies Court, La Greffe, in order to obtain legal personality. This structure is going to come back for every corporate form that we'll discuss. You always need to publish its existence and any modifications to the charter in the official journal, and you need to go to the court office in order to create the actual company to obtain legal personality. So that is the first option. You can do this in a private deed, which you can draft yourself if you're up to it, or you can have your accountant do so, an attorney, or you can ask a notary to do it anyway even though it's now going to be an authentic notary deed. The second option is exactly that, the authentic deed, a deed signed before a notary, which is a public deed. It needs to be registered and kept in the notary's office, and that's what you see behind me. Those are all past deeds that have been signed here and that we need to keep the original of, which in that case obviously is prepared by the notary because he or she will take responsibility as well, and they will also then handle the publication and the deposit. In order to create a nonprofit association, you need to have at least 2 creators, and it has to be a real nonprofit. Like I said, you can't kind of avert a nonprofit association into a personal money-making machine. The members of the nonprofit are together form the General Assembly, and the day-to-day management is handled by the directors, who together form a board of directors, and there have to be at least 2. So you can't create a nonprofit association just by yourself. Sounds logical, but there'll be plenty of corporations that you can create just by yourself. But if you want to be a nonprofit, you have to at least have a friend to join you. And at the end of the lifespan of your association, you want to get rid of it. Your object has been met. You've reached your goal. Then all good things must come to an end, and bad things especially. You have to make sure it can get liquidated. And here, the structure that I'll outline now also applies to all of the other ones. The liquidation needs to be decided on by the General Assembly, by the members. And there are 2 possibilities in order to actually handle it. Either a regular liquidation where the company is put into liquidation and a liquidator or receiver is appointed to wrap the whole thing up, repay all the debts and liquidate all the assets, etc. And then at the end of that process, the company is terminated, or the association in this case is terminated. Belgium also has what is affectionately known as the turbo liquidation for nonprofit and profit entities, which is basically a structure where everything is preloaded or front-loaded. Everything is put in place. All the debts are repaid, or the money to do so is put in escrow, and everything is prepared. And then on one day in a single deed, the whole thing is wrapped up, and the company is liquidated and terminated in one motion in a single deed, which you'll have to sign before a notary. The question then becomes, where do all these proceeds go? In case of a nonprofit association, like I said, no financial benefits, not even at the end. The proceeds have to go to another nonprofit beneficiary, which you could have determined in the charter incorporated, or can be decided on by the General Assembly or by the liquidators if the members are all gone and there's no longer a General Assembly. So you can't directly nor indirectly benefit from the nonprofit association. So that's one side of things. If you want to start, the nonprofit has its own kind of niche sector, and that could be one option. The other, if you want to actually do business in Belgium, is you'll need a for-profit entity. Like I said, a branch is not a separate legal entity. The branch is the lightest form of formalizing your commercial presence in Belgium. If you want to have an actual separate legal entity, you'll need to create a subsidiary. I've put 4 options on the slide. I'll only go into 3 of them. The first is the Society Anonym collectief Genootschap onder firma, which is an unlimited liability company. And then there are 3 limited liability companies, one of which is the cooperative limited liability company. I'm not going to go into that unless you want to start a union, but that's a whole separate kind of ballgame. So let's start with the branch, vestigingseenheid, unité d'établissement. Like I said, the lightest kind of form. Basically, you talk to your accountant and you tell him, get us a corporate number. He'll do so by contacting what is known as the guichet d'entreprise. It's a business administration office. I've listed the ones that have been recognized by the government on the slide. Basically, you talk to your accountant, he'll have 1 or 2 that or she that they like to work with, and they'll handle everything for you. And then you'll get a corporate number, a VAT number if you need one, and you're good to go. One step up from a branch is an unlimited liability company, typically used for single person outfits with 0 commercial risk, because it is an unlimited liability company. If you go bankrupt, you personally will go bankrupt. The benefits are it's very light, it's very flexible. and you can still benefit from corporate taxes. This is the lightest vehicle that'll still allow you to benefit from what Dan said, the lowered corporate taxes that have been implemented in Belgium over the last couple of years, without having too much corporate housekeeping and compliance. But like I said, unlimited liability, so not a good idea if you want to go into a risky business. Another step up is the SRL, is the French abbreviation, a limited liability company. This is the closest form to a UK limited. It's a very light vehicle. It's typically used for SMEs or single person companies. It's very flexible. And the idea is that this is going to become the staple of the Belgian corporate landscape, that everybody's going to have their own BV or SRL to handle their business. There's no minimal capital contribution. You can put in €1 and you're good to go. You can be alone. A single creator and a single shareholder is enough. You have to, on the other hand, go to a notary to make sure that everything is complied with. There are some rules. Again, I'm not going to try to teach them all, but they'll be explained to you by your notary if you want to make this step. And the all-in cost is about €1,300. Could be 1,400, could be 1,200, but that's about what you're looking at, VAT included. And you'll need to have a financial plan. So again, you'll need to talk to an accountant and the notary. Your accountant will be able to recommend one. And the turnaround time for us is 1 day minimum. I do mean minimum. So ideally, you'll give us a bit more time to prepare everything. But if necessary, we can handle it, and we can handle everything in a day and get you incorporated and good to go. During its life, same kind of structure, shareholders and directors. In practice, usually the SRL has few shareholders, which are intimate, who intimately know each other usually, who are usually also all of them directors. And so everybody has different capacities in the company. Again, you'll need an accountant for your corporate housekeeping, and your financial housekeeping, which will culminate in the annual reporting that you'll have to file every year, and possibly VAT reporting as well. Again, work for your accountant. The end, same kind of structure. You can liquidate in a single day if you need to get rid of your SRL. But in this case, the net proceeds do go to the shareholders, obviously. Another step up, the cooperative company. The next step up is the SA, Society Anonym, which is a full-fledged limited liability company. And this form is more geared to medium to large enterprises. It's not well suited for one-person companies, and it's a lot less flexible. For an SA, you need to put in at least €61,500, which you need to underwrite. And in case the company goes bankrupt, that money is going to be gone. And that is the very minimum. You can be a single creator, but like I said, it's not really intended to have a single physical or natural person behind it. The idea is behind a single creator or single shareholder is that you can stack companies on top of each other with 100% shareholdership, even if it is an SA. This company form also needs to be created by a notary. And again, you talk to your accountant, they will draw up the financial plan, and they'll advise you on the form that will need to take. And the notary is going to put together the corporate charter based on discussions that we'll have with you, based on what you need. And in this case, the all-in cost is about €1,650 or up, depending on how much money you put in, because our fee is a function of the capital contribution that you make. Another practical point is, because you have to put in money, you have to make sure that that money is actually put in, and therefore you have to create a dedicated bank account for the company, and the bank will give us an escrow certificate to make sure that the money is actually put in, to make sure that it's not an empty vehicle. So that's an additional point that you'll have to think about. Again, go to a Belgian accountant, and they'll know the ins and outs of this very well. During its lifetime, usually in an SA, there will be multiple shareholders, some of them silent partners, so to speak, and the directors that are going to run the company. One of each is enough. Obviously, like all companies, they have to report their numbers and their taxes, VAT, which will be handled by your accountant. And at the end, we can liquidate in a single day. A few final notes. Like I said, the SA and the SRL are limited liability companies, but this limitation of liability is not unlimited, if you'll pardon the pun. In case of certain circumstances, notably fraud or gross negligence, willful misconduct, however you want to translate it, if things have gone too badly awry and you've handled in a way that was too irresponsible, then the corporate veil will be pierced. In other words, the limited liability company will not protect you, and you as a director who is responsible for some of the things that went wrong can be held personally liable. So the upshot of this, and I know I've said this a lot of times, but it needs to be stressed, is talk to your accountant and or your lawyer and a notary. Get professional help in order to help you along in basically every step of the way, for the creation of the company, to pick the right form, to put it together in the right way, and then to handle it going forward, to make sure that you stay within the lines, because everybody basically knows what fraud or gross negligence is, but it would be a big shame if you were actually trying to do the right thing, but you just ran into some painful legal limitations that you just didn't know about. So make sure you get some professional help, and they'll be able to help you navigate all of this. To wrap it up, you can get more information on the site of the Belgian Notaries Federation or on the site of the Belgian Ministry of Economics and Business, economie.fgov.be. And that has a lot of English language information as well. There are about 1 million companies in Belgium, corporations and branches combined. There's a lot of corporate housekeeping going around. There's a lot of professional interlocutors that you can talk to, going from very small to very large. Obviously, the big four all have representation in Belgium, but there is a massive amount of accountants, one-man mom and pop shops, up to 40 and 50, up to a couple thousand at a big four. So whatever kind of profile you're looking for, you'll be able to find it. Notaries, like I said, there's 1,600 of us. We all cost basically the same. So you can just pick whichever one you feel most comfortable with. And attorneys, well, there's definitely plenty of those.